to today's episode at Dr. Wamai Poultry Hub, where he will be taking us through the key important things when it comes to poultry house construction. Kaidre, join us. Thank you so much, Dr. for creating time for us. Kaidre, introduce yourself.
Thank you, karibu sana. My name is Dr. Godfrey Wamai. I'm a vet by profession, and majorly I do poultry consultation. That is what majorly I do.
I'm a new farmer. Where do I start?
For a new farmer, there are things that you need to know even before you start the poultry business. And one of the key things that you need to have in place is the right structure. Because these birds must be housed, so you must have the right structure. Number two, you must know the source of your chicks. And then number three, you must have the right equipment. Those are the most basic things that you should have, or you should put them in place before you start any poultry business.
Okay, Dr. How do I construct a poultry house?
Constructing a poultry house needs some knowledge and skills, not just any house, because so many things go wrong with the bad structure. So there are things that you have to consider whenever you are building a poultry house. Number one, you have to know the type of layering system, especially for layers that you want to use. Because there are two layering systems. You can either have the battery cage system, like the one you can see here, and then also you can have the deep litter system. So the structure will be built according to the layering system that you want to put in place. So for the basic structure, things that you need to consider, number one is the orientation. The orientation, we usually look at the where the sun rises and where it sets. So it has to be on a east to west direction. That is the right orientation. Another thing, whenever you are constructing a structure, is you must know the space. These birds require spacing for production, even for growth, and for good performance. So performance and spacing, they are very closely related. So what is the spacing? We have three types of birds that are majorly kept by the farmers. Number one is the broilers. So broilers, majorly they are kept for meat. So they don't require a very big space. And for them, we just require a 1 foot square for one broiler bird. Then for layers, we do double space, so it's 2 square foot. And then if you want to venture into improved kienyeji or the indigenous chicken, we usually recommend 1.5 square foot per bird. So for example, if you want to keep 1,000 birds, let's say for broilers, you need a house that will accommodate 1,000 birds, that is equivalent to 1,000 square foot. If you are to put layers in the same house, you can only put 500 layers. And then if you want to do an improvement in the same house, then you just need to divide by 1.5 square foot per bird. The other thing that is very critical whenever you are constructing a poultry house, you need to factor in ventilation. Ventilation simply means how the air enters and leaves the poultry house. Because one of the major challenges you will encounter along the way, there are respiratory problems. So respiratory diseases are so many, and therefore if you have a compromised ventilation, you'll complicate the whole thing, and then you'll spend a lot of money trying to treat diseases that will be coming just because there was poor ventilation. So a minimum height for a good poultry house, usually we say it's 9 foot. Like this one, you can see you just do 4 foot solid wall. You can use stones, you can use iron sheet, whatever is available, just do a solid, and then the remaining parts leave it open. So just use a chick wire to prevent the entry of the wild birds, because they are carriers of diseases, and then you can reinforce it with a wire mesh. And the other thing is, whenever you are constructing a poultry house, we have said that you have either depleter or the cage system. So for the cage system, you have to factor in the size of the cage, the battery cage. And usually most of the battery cages, you will find that they have a length of around 9 feet to 10 feet. So for one line of battery cage, you need to factor in 10 feet for one line, and then you can leave like about 2 feet on the left and the right side, so that you are able to pass through between the cages. And then the other thing is the height is also very important whenever you are having a cage system, because the nearer the birds are to the iron sheet, they will suffer from what we call the heat stress or the heat stress. That will majorly affect your production. So whenever you are doing a battery cage system, the height has to be high, and usually we say a minimum of 12 feet high, so that you have an allowance between the last tire of the cage and the iron sheets, so that you have that the birds are not having heat stress. Another thing that you need to factor in whenever you are constructing a poultry house, remember we say disease is the major threat for any poultry business. So you have to factor in the biosecurity measures. So at the entrance of every poultry house, you must have a footbath. And a footbath is where we put a disinfectant, so that whenever you are coming in of the poultry house and leaving the poultry house, you make sure you dip your feet there. Another thing that you have to consider whenever you are doing a poultry house is the easy cleaning. The house must be easy to clean and to disinfect. And therefore the floor, usually we recommend a cemented floor, because you will have a very easy time to do cleaning and then disinfection. And then the other thing, iron sheet also, you should use iron sheets that are reflective. That means the birds don't suffer from heat stress. Because whenever you have a heat stress issues in the poultry house, there will be a lot of cannibalism with the birds. Then there will also be a lot of issues with production. So you will not have a kind of a good production. It's not predictable, because if the weather changes, becomes too hot, then you lose on production. Then also when it comes too cold, also you lose on production. So the key things that we have said, number one, you have to factor in ventilation. So make sure you have at least 5 foot open sided. And usually a poultry house should be rectangular in shape, not circular, for easy ventilation of that house. So we say you should make it rectangular in shape. That means they have 2 long sides and 2 short sides. So the 2 long sides is where we are leaving it open, so that we have air flowing and air flowing out. And the other thing is, whenever you are constructing a poultry house, we say that don't exceed majorly, unless you have assisted ventilation, where you will have maybe ventilators or use fans in that house. Usually we advise don't exceed 20 feet width, because what will happen in at the middle, we'll have issues with oxygen levels, because there will be a lot of ammonia being generated in the poultry house, and in between, in that house, at the center of that house, we'll have issues with fresh air. So also that will affect production, will affect growth, and also will be a catalyst for diseases. So a poultry house that is done the right way is very paramount for any poultry, for any successful poultry business.
Dr. How many birds should be accommodated in one cube?
Okay, thank you. That is a very good question. As you can see here, this is one of the cubes where we put these birds. And therefore what we make sure is that this one cube accommodates a certain number of birds. It will depend with the size of the cage that we are using, because every manufacturer has different sizes for the cubes of these cages. But for this case, this cage that are on my side here, this one you can comfortably put 4 birds because it's big in size and it's very strong. But there are some cages whereby even if you put four birds, then you'll have over-congested those birds, and therefore you need to do less per cage. So the number will vary with the size of the cube for that particular cage. So key things to remember whenever you are constructing a poultry house, we have said number 1 is the footbath. That is number 1. Number 2 is the height of the house. You have to factor in the height of the house for proper ventilation. Number 3, we have said that house must be easy to clean and disinfect. And then number 4, you have to consider the spacing, because issues with the congestion will affect even production, will affect growth. So you have to have the right spacing. And then the other thing we have said is that try as much as possible to have the house in the right orientation, east-west orientation. And then also make sure that your house is rectangular in shape. that will serve you well and will give you maximum benefits with a good structure.
That is what we had for you today. Until next time, please remember to subscribe, share, like and comment. Bye-bye.